Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Staltari, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last year or so, I've been featuring Les Filles du Roi. This is the bookend series, Les Filles Mariées, the marriageable girls that we're doing today. This series is really about the founding grandmothers of Quebec. I often call Les Filles du Roi the founding mothers. These ladies came before, and they came in ways that we will explore that are very, very different. But before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know. The subscribe, the like, the notify, all of that helps the logarithms and all that, helps the channel grow. Now, the next couple ways are ways that you can help the channel grow even more exponentially. We have the Super Thanks, which is part of the Super Thanks on your menu board that you can just click on and to donate to the channel. And then we have Coffee, which is an external support, and then Patreon, which is another ways of supporting the channel, making sure that I can keep doing all of this. So thank you to all of you who have supported me thus far. I really, really appreciate it. Let's get to know the next Filles Mariées. So les Filles Mariées came from 1634 to 1662. The next year, 1663, is when Les Filles du Roi, the program sponsored by the government, Les Filles Mariées, were absolutely individuals, one or two or three maybe at a time over a course of less than about 28 years, where they would bravely come and would truly, truly be as I said before, the grandmothers of everything, and are as deep in Quebec as you can possibly go. So there's about 260 of them, much less than Les Filles du Roi, who numbered in the 700s. And so that was actually one of the reasons Les Filles du Roi wasn't, Les Filles Mariées, although their contributions are enormous, at the time, it wasn't possible for 200 women to support the growth of an entire country, and over such a long period of time as well. So with that being said, let's get to know one of these brave, brave souls. So for episode 18, we are going to be diving into the life of Jeanne Auneau, also spelled Aunois, Aunois. She's a complicated lady. She was requested by a viewer, and then when I looked in my files, she happens to be my 10th great-grandmother as well. So I delved a little deeper, and it was really fascinating. Let's get to know her. So she's born in 1626. In all of the references, it says she's from France, unknown origin, unknown parents. But recently, with DNA and a lot of research has been done, I read a wonderful report from a lady online. It's beginning to seem clear to me that she would be of Native Canadian heritage, and she would have been either a Métis or a Huron from those tribes. That's even getting too deep in the subject, but I wanted to honor her. Obviously she's part of the Filles Mariées lineage, or that's how they view her. But I also want to point out she may not actually be a Filles Mariées. She may actually have been a Native Canadian. So with that being said, let's get to know her life and all that it brought forth. So if we go with she was born in France of unknown parentage, it appears that she shows up around 1645 in New France. It appears. So Pierre Lefebvre de Descoteaux was born about 1616 in the commune of Sceaux. His parents were Pierre Lefebvre and Jeanne Coutinot, which I love that name. The town where he was from, the commune, was about 9 kilometers or 6 miles away from Paris, the city of Paris. The Seigneurie of Sceaux, appears to have really been very present in the 15th century. The chateau that was built for the family that owned the Seigneurie dates from 1597. I have a picture of it there. L'église Saint-Jean-Baptiste de Sceaux dates from the 12th century and was rebuilt in 1476 and again in 1670. So that was presumably where Pierre Lefebvre was baptized. It's kind of a really cool place. You can see how beautiful it is, how historic, and how close to Paris, really. So sometime in 1646, Jeanne would marry Pierre, um, and we believe in Three Rivers, Trois-Rivières. But again, we cannot be sure. One of the clues, if you will, that she was Native Canadian was that there was no marriage record. But that's not really a clue because plenty of ladies who came from France did not have the marriage record. So that's not the only reason, that there is a suspect for this. But for sure, we know that at some point in 1646, they were married. In July of 1648, Pierre was captured and held until October of 1648. This is kind of one of those things where you go, well, if he was married to a Native Canadian, if it was a competing other tribe, that could have been provoked, or alternatively, his release was potentially possible because she was in the. So these are all questions. I'm going to go deeper into this, but I just wanted to kind of say, wow, he wasn't killed. That's the great thing for me as a descendant for sure, and for all the other descendants. Very, very important. So let's have a look at where they eventually settled. So they would settle at Trois-Rivières, becoming pioneers there for certain. Trois-Rivières was only the second settlement of New France after Quebec City. Remember, they came back to New France after the British had relinquished control in 1632. By 1634, they were creating and expanding this New France finally. And the settlement they chose was Trois-Rivières. It was named Trois-Rivières because of the St. Maurice River that has three channels that form at the mouth of the St. Lawrence River. Trois-Rivières is French for three rivers. It was known as Three Rivers for a long time in North America, but as the French regained control of their province in the 1960s, this is very, very recent, the French version overtook the Three Rivers name. In fact, when I was growing up, we called it Three Rivers, even though my mother was French, and we just called it Three Rivers because we were from an English settlement or an English family. Trois-Rivières was a very strategic location on the St. Lawrence River, and it helped the new nation to grow and prosper. It also proved to be a very important battle in the American Revolution, the Battle of Three Rivers. Then it was known that way. Some of you who have ancestors in this area at that time might be surprised at who would qualify for admission to the daughters of the American, or sons of the American Revolution. So that's interesting. So have a look at that. I also have a video on finding your French patriots. So you might want to look at that if your family and grandparents were around at the time of the French Revolution, of the American Revolution. You can see the picture of the three rivers, the mouth of St. Lawrence, and then this is actually present day Trois-Rivières. It's maintained a very, very old feel to it. And of course, here it is on the map. It is halfway between Montreal and Quebec City. So let's have a look at the family they created. So all in all, they had 7 children. We have Jacques, who married Marie Baudry and had 6 children, all of whom would make it. Then we have Catherine, who married Antoine Trottier and would have 10 children, all of whom would make it. Just a note, this is the first Trottier out of 3 that we're going to see in this family. So the siblings of the Trottier married into the Lefebvre. So that's very important to understand the linking of those families. Elisabeth Isabelle married Pierre Félix Tunet and had 5 children, all of whom would make it. That, I put it in purple so I could show you, that is my ancestor. Michel married Catherine Trottier, there's the second Trottier, and had 10 children, 8 of whom survived. Ignace would marry Marie Trottier, that's our third one, and have 7 children, all of whom would make it. Ange would marry Marie-Madeleine Cusson and have 10 children, all of whom would make it. Pierre did not have any children. And then we look at the 1660 census. Jeanne is listed there as his wife. They're about 5 years apart on this. All the children are listed here. We do have a Noël Charpentier, a Jeanne Ledoux, and we have Jeanne Auneau, who is a domestic, which is kind of interesting, you know. So I always like to see who else is on the census. Just gives you kind of a bird's eye view. And then on the 1667 census, we have Pierre Lefebvre, Jeanne. She's now 9 years younger than him. I love this. And we have Catherine, we have Jacques, um, and we have Michel, we have Ignace, and Agnes, who's actually Ange, and Pierre. They have 7 beasts and 80 arpents. I have rarely seen this many acreage. So we're dealing with a very, very important family in this area. So they would have about 75 acres of land. Pierre would become a very important member of the Trois-Rivières region. He served as the procureur syndic de la communauté des habitants in 1658, which is essentially a labor organizer. This position was one in which he was elected to, and he would inform the authorities of the important matters of the community. He was also a church warden in 1663. Pierre would pass away sometime between 1668 and 1669. No death record has been found. He died at Cap de la Madeleine, it is told. At that time, he and Jeanne would have been married 22 years. So Jeanne would go on to live alone, and she is featured on the 1681 census as the widow of Lefebvre, veuve de Pierre Lefebvre. She's 54. Her children living with her are Michel, Ignace, and Pierre. She's got her 3 sons living with her. She has 1 gun. She has 5 goats, and by then they now have 40 arpents valeurs. It is probable and very likely that she gave portions of the land to her children, and ultimately would have, either given it or sold it and then given the money. That's kind of how they play. So highly likely. Now this picture I found in the collections of the BAC. I put the link for you. This is an older picture of the Trois-Rivières church. It's just really amazing. I wanted to show it to you. And of course, this is her death record. She died February 11th, 1697 at she was 71, which is a respectable and very good age to reach at that time period. And this is the astonishing part. At her death, and when they calculated it in 1729, she had 387 descendants, of which I am a descendant. So we are just amazed by her, and just a wonderful, wonderful. But the story isn't just done just yet. Let's see what else is a lasting legacy. And here we find B. Dufevre, and it is named after the first seigneur, who was Jacques Lefebvre, who was their son. And so this is truly a family legacy, and absolutely amazing to think that hundreds of years later it still exists. It's there. That's a town. This is how beautiful it is, and you can visit, of course. And this is the legacy that they have started. Now, the Rose by Any Other Name section, when I can find it, among the variations of this name are Denoncourt, Descoteaux, if you remember his D name was Descoteaux, Le Marise, Boulac, Belleville, and Senneville. So these are all potential derivatives of this first family. This is found on page 139 of our French Canadian Ancestors, volume 6. I put the information for you as well. As always, I love to feature all the resources that I use and really promote. I want to talk a little bit about the Quebec Family History Society that's based in Quebec. And then we also have the French Canadian Heritage Society of Michigan, amazing, amazing resource. We have the American French Genealogical Society of Rhode Island, and then the American Canadian Genealogical Society, which I think is based in Ontario. So these are all tremendous resources for you to have a look, and I've posted the addresses for you to go and check that out. So, and all of the above information is there in the notes. So ends episode 18 of Jeanne Auneau. She's truly a fascinating woman. Whether she's a fille mariée or a native Canadian, doesn't really matter, does it? She was truly a remarkable woman. Endured her husband being held hostage, produced children, had 387 descendants as of 1729, and obviously I'm here because of her. So, Jeanne, we are so grateful for your presence and for your sacrifices and how you lived your life and your ultimate contribution to the growth that is Quebec and North America. You truly are an amazing, remarkable woman, and we thank you. Merci, grand-maman. Until I see you on episode 19, au revoir.